Welcome, everyone, to It's a Wrap with Rap. I am your host, Ron Rappaport. This podcast features extraordinary people who do special things to enrich our lives and people who have overcome major challenges and adversities in their lives to come out on top. Our guest today is Justin Brien. He is a mental health advocate, an inspirational speaker, and a life coach. For about half of his life, he has been riddled with an endless cycle of addiction stemming from his mental health. With many dark nights, self-doubt, and questioning if he was going to make it, he almost gave in. However, with sheer determination, discipline, and finding his why, he has been able to push through the darkness and into the light. Justin has earned his associate and professional life coaching certificate, as well as a public speaking certificate. Justin travels to schools, businesses, sports teams to talk about workplace wellness, mental health, and addiction. His goal is to bring awareness to the reality of the spiral mental health can have on individuals, as well as teaching people when to recognize it and talk about it. Through sharing his story, he teaches healthy coping mechanisms. Justin has been sober for 2 years now. Justin wants people to know they are not alone, and it's okay to be not okay, but it is not okay to stay there. Welcome, Justin, to the show. I'm really happy to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ronald.
Oh, my pleasure. Listen, can you tell us about your early years growing up in Western Canada?
You know what? I had a decent upbringing, but now that I look back on it, and from what I know now, it stems, like, a lot of my mental health stems from, not having a lot of self-worth, self-confidence, self-esteem. I was always comparing myself to other people. I never wanted to be me. I always wanted to be someone else.
Right.
I had friends in high school, people liked me. I was athletic, but for some reason, I didn't want to be me. And I always tried to be the funny guy to get people to like me, because I was very insecure as a kid. And so, but I can see that now, which, going through my childhood and adolescent years and stuff like that, I never would have put it all together that it has anything to do with my mental health. Right. But now that I know more about it, I can kind of associate, some reasons why I kind of acted the way I did. And, I've learned along the way.
Yeah. Can you just talk a little bit about your high school years? How was that?
Well, they weren't bad. I was picked on a little bit. I had a nickname. My nickname was actually Gay. But I was very, outgoing. I tried to dress nice. I tried to goof around a lot. But one thing was I was a little bit behind all my friends in sports. So, like, it was very hard for me, like, always watching my friends make the rep teams and stuff like that. And,
yeah,
that was I didn't really realize how much of a toll that actually took on me. But, high school wasn't too bad. I got decent grades, good grades, actually, for when I went to school. But, I was kind of lazy in high school. Like, I was one of those kids that I skipped 36 English 12 classes. I was failing, but then I wrote the exam and I passed.
Awesome.
So, I definitely had the abilities to do a lot better. Like, I was on the honor roll before, but I was just, I was lazy. I didn't want anything. And I realized I slept a lot, and it could have been because, I don't know, well, maybe if I'm a teenager, I'm pretty lazy, but I knew teenagers that weren't. But also, maybe it was because I was sad, maybe because I was battling internally. Yeah. But when I got out of high school, I didn't really drink in high school. But when I got out of high school, I turned into an alcoholic really quick.
That's what I was going to, leads into my next question. At what age did you start drinking, and what do you think was the motivation to do it?
Well, I started drinking. I think I first drank was a New Year's. I was 16 years old. And, but I just drank that night. And then I drank a handful of times throughout high school. I didn't drink much. But when I got out of high school, I moved away for hockey, and then I started to drink even more and more. My billet house was just an apartment building, me and another guy, and the parents would come in and out. And from the very start of me drinking more and more, I quickly turned into an alcoholic because I loved who it made me. I loved the confidence it gave me. I thought it made me funny. I thought I was turning into somebody that people would like, and eventually it ended up people didn't want to be around me if Justin was drinking.
Yeah.
But I quickly became an alcoholic. And then at 24 years old, I'm bartending downtown Vancouver, and I'm drinking every single night, going out to the bars. I refuse to believe I'm an alcoholic because I'm 24 years old. I'm having fun, but I did cocaine for the first time.
And that was at 24.
Yeah, at 24 years old. So this is 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I was always against drugs. I wasn't against people that did them, but I'm like, drugs aren't for me, right? I'm going to stay away.
What do you think, Justin, prompted you to start the drug thing?
It was just there. It was available. So I tried it, and then my buddy said the worst thing he could have said to me, which, people wouldn't think is a bad thing, but he said, man, you were funny. But to a guy like me who's struggling, if you tell me I'm funny, that clicked. So all of a sudden I was like, hey, I have alcohol to help my confidence.
Right.
I have drugs to make me funny. I'm going to put them together. So then I started mixing.
Sure. So you thought it was like an aid to you.
Yeah. So it was definitely a coping mechanism for me.
A booster, whatever.
Yeah. Because, I ended up getting an algorithm to drink. So I would have this many drinks before I leave my house, this many drinks to talk to this person, this many drinks to talk to this dance or to dance on the dance floor. And like everybody always like, oh, you're so confident. And boy, was that a lie. I was using these drugs where I'd be doing them by myself, or even to go to a friend's house, I would have a hat or one of those mini Mickeys.
Yeah.
Calm my nerves down. And then when I'm sitting around a group of my peers, they're all laughing, having fun. And I'm like, okay, I'm not funny enough. And then I'd have some more and have another shot. And, then eventually I'd end up blacking out or I'd do more drugs and be up for 3 days or I'd black out and come to 3 days later. Like I was coherent, but I couldn't remember it. And now that, I had concussions as a kid too, or not even as late as 28 years old, I was sucker punched. And that doesn't help.
No.
You mix the concussions with mental health, with alcohol and drugs. The recipe for
it's a bad mix for sure. Now, did you believe you were an addict or an alcoholic at any time when you were using these substances? I mean, did you say, hey, I'm an alcoholic or you hear about a lot of people who are doing it and they just deny it. So
So at 24 years old, when I was bartending in Vancouver, one of the bartenders actually approached me and he asked me, he's like, hey, can I ask you something? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? He's like, do you think you drink too much? Now, he was an ex-alcoholic. I knew his story. I knew why he drank. I knew why he doesn't drink anymore. And I just looked at him like, no, there's no way. But they noticed things that I was out every night. But I could have that bar shut down within 15 to 20 minutes and be out, like fully stocked, wiped down, cash out, gone for power hour, power half hour, whatever I could get it out for, and drink as much as I can. And then I'd go home and order a bottle or something. So these guys knew it because the managers would come and be like, why can't you guys close the bar this quick? I mean, Justin can, so why can't you? And they're just like, well, because he's an alcoholic. So he asked me that night. Yeah. And on my way home, so what I was to do, close the bar, go to the bar.
Yeah.
But on my way home that night, I started asking myself, Justin, do you think you drink too much? I'm like, there's no way I drink too much. I'm 24 years old. I live downtown in the big city. I'm a bartender. I like to have fun. And I said, hey, Justin, do you think you're an alcoholic? And then I was like, no, I'm too smart. I said these words, I am too smart to be an alcoholic. Yeah. Alcoholism is for lowlifes and people that are not normal, which I knew deep down I was an alcleholic.
So but you were a functioning alcoholic.
At that point,
you could close the bar down like that.
Yeah.
You were functioning,
mm-hmm.
Which a lot of people are functioning alcoholics. Justin, what toll did the drugs and alcohol take on your family life, your jobs, your friends, and all that?
Yeah. So I would move around from job to job. I was getting fired. I went from city to city. I lived in 27 different places in from my childhood and back. And some places were more than once, but I moved 27 different times.
Wow.
but I would mess up somewhere and I'm like, okay, I'm going somewhere else. Then I'm going somewhere else. Then I'm going to go somewhere else. But then I started to lose jobs and it started to catch up to me. I moved home at 28 and I tried to seek help because then I knew, I'm like, okay, well, something's wrong. Like why do I drink? Right. And so I started seeking help and then I got diagnosed with clinical depression, general social anxiety, ADHD. And it was hard for me to accept. I mean, it was good to hear it, but it was hard for me to accept it, right? Because I don't know many people that want to say, okay, I don't have it all together. I need help. But that's what people really need to get more comfortable in doing.
Right.
Doing life alone. But 28, I'm at home. I get a job at a mill, but I'm just a mess. I'm missing time at work because I'm drinking too much, so I took a leave of absence. Then me and my girlfriend broke up. However, on my birthday, we ended up hooking up. 3 months later, she told me, hey, Justin, listen, I'm pregnant. I'm like, okay, all right. But the drinking didn't stop. I was still on a leave from work, and then I ended up crashing a car. I'm like, okay, you know what? I got to get out of here. I got to go to rehab. So I went to rehab. However, I went with the wrong mindset. I went with the mindset, I'm going to work out twice a day. I'm going to eat 6 times a day. I went up to 245 pounds. Like, I go into classes, but I wasn't there. Right.
Yeah. You weren't really into it.
No,
is what you're saying. Yeah.
I was there with 60 other dudes. If you take away their coping mechanisms, some of them are out of jail, some of them have been abused. Like there's a lot of testosterone. However, you know what? One thing about rehab is that I felt more normal there than I do around my friends because I'm the black sheep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you fit in the other place.
Yeah. Well, they might not have it all together, but they could surely make it look like it.
Yeah.
But they're still functioning. Right. So when I got out of rehab, my uncle picked me up and I said, the first thing I said, I'm like, oh, I'm not done drinking forever. Well, why did you go to rehab then? Like 3 months later, my son's born. No, a month later. So 1 month later after I get out of rehab, my son was born.
Right.
I never wanted him. Not because I didn't want a kid, because I was scared that he was going to turn out like me.
Very understandable. Yeah.
I just didn't want to be like me. And that's a brutal feeling. It's like, you're so low about yourself that you don't want your son because he might turn out like you. But then, you think I'd get better for him. But 3 months later, I'm hitting the bottle again. And 6 months after that, he's 6 months old, my girlfriend had to make the decision to pack up and leave. Like I don't blame her at all. Like I'm not a good environment to be around as an alcoholic. I wasn't drinking every day at that point. Like I was in Vancouver and I wasn't touching that much drugs then, like very, very little. Like I was doing okay. It's just when I drank, I didn't know how to shut it off. Like I didn't have to drink every day, but I couldn't shut it off. It was so weird. It was literally beyond my control.
Kind of like a binge.
Yeah, no, I was a binge drinker.
Yeah.
I went from an everyday alcoholic to slowing down to because I would black out. And then I would keep drinking. Or I'd get up and I'd start drinking, right? So she leaves and I end up going downhill. Like I'm in my darkest time ever. So I start to become suicidal. And for 6 straight years, every single day, I would think, how am I going to end this? What am I going to write? How am I going to do it? To where I became a organ donor. Got milk thistle from my liver and kidney flush because I was preparing my body to die. And once I died, I wanted to give it away to somebody. So I was trying to get it healthy. But how can you get it healthy when you're drinking? So I was trying to stay sober as much as I could to get my body healthy so I could donate it.
We're gonna get into that in a few minutes. But I did want to ask you. You have stated that the hardest part of addiction is not quitting, but living in sobriety. So could you elaborate for us on that?
Well, I feel personally that, you don't choose addiction. You don't choose to be an addict. However, you choose to stay in addiction. The hardest part of addiction isn't quitting, but living in sobriety. So that being said, every time I went 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months sober, it was very hard to see other people doing it. And I couldn't, thinking I'm not normal because I can't drink. So I'm putting alcohol on a pedestal, but it was learning how to have conversations, learning how to leave my house, learning how to have confidence in a sober without using a substance. That's been the hardest part of it all. Like I'm about 28 months sober, something like that. And it's still a little bit hard,
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm a coach now. One of the hardest things.
Awesome. That's awesome. You're doing great.
Thanks. One of the hardest things for me to do is have conversations, and I'm a coach. But you go out of your comfort zone, and I know I can help people. So that was the hardest part. It was learning how to, because I used it to leave my house. I used it to dance. I used it to talk. I used it to go play hockey or to go play baseball. It's everywhere. But
it was a huge crutch. Is what it was.
Oh yeah. Well, and people don't realize it's alcohol's on TV. It's at restaurants. It's in bars. It's in sports. It's in movies. It's everyone's like, oh, do you want to go for a drink? Do you want to go for a drink?
Yeah.
But now, I say I don't drink anymore, but a lot less.
What are some of the biggest myths out there about drug and alcohol use?
Oh, geez. That there's so much help out there. Everyone thinks that there's so much help out there. There is kind of. If you want to go to a private rehab center, you got to have 10 to 25 grand. I went to rehab. I was lucky that I got it through my counseling, but my parents couldn't pay for it. My family couldn't pay for it. So I had to pay for half of mine. And you know what? There's waiting lists. So I couldn't get in. I had a union job. They wouldn't help me. My parents couldn't help me. I had to pay half of it myself. I had to go on a waiting list. Even to get counseling. There was a counselor the counseling didn't want to see me because I also had an addiction counselor, but then you got to do an intake, right? And then, you got to have a phone. So what, some of these illness people, they don't have phones, but then you got to make it to that appointment. But the counselor, I wanted to see an actual counselor, not the addiction part. And they wouldn't see me because they just said, oh, it's just alcohol. Well, it wasn't. So why am I drinking? Well, there's a reason why I drink. There's a reason everybody drinks. There's like some people just, they like to drink, but they can turn it off. Right. Yeah. They like to have fun, but they turn it off. Me, I drank to change my mindset. And
they needed to find the root causes is what they needed.
Yeah. So when people, it really pissed me off the other day. Sorry for saying this, but not very many people know this story. I think like 2 or 3 people, but I'm at the gym the other day and I see on a Facebook thread pops up in my hometown. And it's people talking about an addict sleeping in the park. It's a kid's park. And they're like, get that addict junkie out of here. The low lifes, they're going to be leaving needles around. And, they're just problem. They got to get out of here. They can't be sleeping there. They just started lighting this person up, right? Yeah. And the person's up there. It's a choice. I'm like, okay, yeah, it is a choice. It is. Yeah, I believe you. But maybe there's not help. There's help everywhere. And there's not, though. I mean, there is, but there's not. Like, you got to be able to get help for being sober, staying sober, eating sober, sleeping somewhere sober. Some of these people don't have anybody. Some people, they've given up on themselves so much that their family gave up on them. Now, I saw this, and I'm like, man, I was there. I wasn't homeless. I was very lucky that my mom let me stay in her basement. Very lucky. But there was times where I was this far away from moving to Vancouver, living on the streets, because I couldn't stand looking at myself. Because I knew every time I picked up that drug or alcohol that, I'm hurting myself, my son, my job, my family. Yeah. So I decided, I was gonna, respond on that Facebook thread. I'm like, these guys aren't even worth it. So I'm like, you know what? I finished my workout, went home, went downtown, or went to where that person was sleeping at the park, and I just sat beside him and I said, what's going on? Because I knew that person just needs someone to talk to them. That person is still a person. Sure. Can you imagine having to drink or do alcohol or do a drug to feel good about yourself? Now, I'm not making excuses for anybody. Like, I chose to do it, and I know I shouldn't have, and I messed up a lot of things. But could you imagine feeling that this is what you have to do to feel good about yourself? And then all of a sudden you have to be in a park on the ground.
Yeah, it's so easy for people to, to criticize and be judgmental, and we're not judgmental on this program at all, because we realize there's reasons for everything.
Yeah, I learned that in coaching. All behavior makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That person even said that someone came by there, and it was a girl, said, "Hey, junkie, get the out or something."
Right.
They said something along those lines. So I sat there, and that same person came by. She's like, "Hey, do you need help?" I'm like, "No, I'm just here to talk to them, so you can get your thread down." And so the person took the post off, right?
Yeah.
And no, I said, they don't need someone to push them out. They just need somebody to talk to and not complain about. So the person actually took the post down. That was pretty cool. So I sat there and I talked to him for about an hour, went and grabbed some food from the store, brought it back to him. And they told me their story. Like, they moved out of a town because it was very hard to quit there because you get anywhere. So they came to this one. I mean, she's still using. She had it, right? But, she was trying. And so I knew I started to meet a lot of people along my way, like Canadian mental health and counseling from being in it and going and speaking. So I called a couple of my contacts and I said, "Hey, this is this." So we got her a place to stay, got her some food, got her a doctor, got her like methadone re-upped so she can go off of it slowly. But it's, it's everyone looks at a junkie as like like I did.
Disposable. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was that person that's like, oh, they're but and I never thought they were disposable because I had the one guy in Vancouver. I always donated him money. Always, when I got off my bar shift, always gave him my change. And then one day I didn't see him for a couple of weeks, or one time I didn't see him for a couple of weeks, and I kept my change. And I had like $200. I was like, hey, this guy's going and having a good time. But you know what? People look at him and they look at you different. And I just by that post, it's people think, yeah, like you said, disposable. And the myth is, they're just people.
Right.
They're lost. They could be hurt, They're trying to fill a void.
Now, Justin, you wrote that you were suicidal for 6 years, and you plan to carry it out in January of 2019. When you had those thoughts, did you confide in anybody about it?
No, I didn't want to lose my son.
Okay.
I didn't want to end up in the psych ward.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lose my kid.
So it was the stigma and also the fear of somebody could call the authorities or whatever. Yeah. And that's a big problem with the whole thing, with the suicide thing. Now, how did you overcome the idea of suicide?
I hospitalized myself on January 4th, 2019, and finally admitted out loud in front of both my parents and a counselor that I had a plan. That plan was to end it. And ever since then, I was lucky. I got to go home because I lived with my mom. It felt good to say it out loud. Like, I didn't have to run from it anymore. I didn't have to hide from it, because there'd be so many times where I'd be at work looking at someone thinking, I want to die. I want to die. I'd be having a conversation with my mom. How am I going to do this without her knowing? Where am I going to leave my body? Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to make it so it's not at the house, so she doesn't have to clean up? And you go into all these details of how
I can imagine,
less impactful on somebody finding you.
Yeah. Now, Justin, what advice can you give our audience of what and what not to say to someone they know that confides their suicide thoughts to them, and the meaning of the things that they tell them?
Well, don't just say you'll be fine, or don't just say, oh, be positive. Don't try to fix them. The best thing you can do is tell me more. How can I help you? Can I do anything else? Can I help you get help? Stuff like that. So you want to learn with the intent to listen, not to fix. Because for one, you're not a counselor. Don't get mad. And you know what? Don't get mad at them. That would be like the worst thing you could do. They're already giving up on themselves. They already don't understand. Like, for me, like, I didn't understand. I'm like, why am I going through this? Like, why do I feel like this? I felt guilty. I felt guilty for feeling guilty. I felt guilty for feeling bad. Like, I knew what my capabilities were, but I couldn't get my life together. I couldn't put the bottle down, it's, you're making the wrong decision. So you just start to feel bad, and then your internal dialogue switches, and you just start to tear yourself up. And once you're tearing yourself up, you start to project your thoughts onto other people. So I'm projecting my thoughts into my other friend's head, thinking, okay, he thinks I'm a loser. He thinks I'm a failure. When really it's just me thinking that, but I'm beating myself up because I feel bad for feeling bad.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest mistakes people with mental health issues make?
Not asking for help.
Asking for help.
Trying to do it alone. So good example is every time I felt better, I would stop taking my medication. Every time I felt better, I'd stop going to my counseling appointments. Now, I made the mistake of also thinking, oh, that's just a counselor. She's paid to be here. She doesn't want to be here. But you know what I had to think? Because I was in such a negative mindset. I was like, I have these things called the 3 A's. Admit the problem, accept it internally, and then ask for help. So I had to admit the problem, whatever it was, that it is real for me, that I had to accept it. And acceptance was the hugest part for me, because I thought I accepted it and then I asked for help. But accepting that, Justin, you shouldn't drink. Justin, you can't do, you need help. You can't do this, right? And that the acceptance part was big. And like I said before, I would go off my medication. I would go off, stop seeing my counselor, because I thought she was just there to get paid. But really, she chose that profession. She chose to go to school for how long. Like, yeah, do they get paid well? For sure. But still, they're there for a reason. And you do not have to do this thing called life alone.
Could you please tell people out there who may be in a similar place or know someone in a similar place about your philosophy to deal with mental health issues such as addiction, depression, and how you found these coping mechanisms, such as finding your why?
Well, you know what? I actually luckily, I started listening to motivational speaking on YouTube when I was working out. And, I was listening to guys like Trent Shelton, Inky Johnson, Eric Thomas, and Les Brown. Now, I had no idea who those guys were. I sure do now. Like, those guys are like my idols. But they started talking about finding your why. So I had to ask myself, what is my why? And, my why was going to be, I wanted to leave the world so my son could grow. He was 3 years old. He'd grow up with a healthy father. He wouldn't remember me. But then I was like, what if I got better for him? Well, if I get better for him, I get better for me. If I get better for me, I can help other people. Now, you're going to have a lot of people say, do it for yourself. And I totally agree. Do it for yourself if you can. If you can't, find your why to do it. Find that why that's going to help motivate you, help inspire you, to take you from the bottom to the top. It's not going to be easy, but you find your why, because everybody has a why. Everybody's somebody. There is a why out there. I ended up becoming a coach and a speaker because of my past, because of my suffering. I got to turn my pain into purpose.
Yes.
I never would have guessed I would do this, but that is my why now. So my why was my son. I mean, I still want to be a role model for him, right? He's like a mini me. It's pretty awesome. I feel bad for my girlfriend because she has 2 kids. She has a 5-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
And she's got you. Yeah.
But my why now is to help other people. So whatever you're going through, there is a learning lesson in it. Whether it's bad or it's good, you can look at it. So I wouldn't change a thing for what I'm going through, what I went through now, because I get to help other people. But find your why. Then what you base your decisions around your why. So my why was my son. He's my anchor. So what do I have to do now? Well, I have to quit drinking. I have to quit doing drugs. So I'm basing my decisions around that, because it's not going to benefit me to do those. What else do I do? I had to go back to rehab. So I base my decisions around my why. So I found my why, base my decisions, and then you got to figure out the how to the why, because the why is the belief and the how is the action. So what was the how? Okay, well, you got to do gratitude every morning. What am I grateful for? Journal my feelings at night. Positive affirmations. I am statements like I am strong. I am adversity. I am recovery. I am a coach. I am a speaker. I am a father. Reaffirm who you are to the world. Eating healthy. I know when I quit drinking, I can still crave sugar and go on those little sugar binges, but for me, it's something I need to change. I want to change it, change the needs into wants as well. And it gets pretty draining when you say I need to do something. Be like, I want to do it because I will benefit from it.
Right.
But change your diet because you are what you eat. You put in crap, you feel like crap. It's
That's for sure. Right? You don't have to tell me that.
Yet exercise. I know it's tough. I know you want to stay in your bed all day. I was there too. You know what? I am a coach and I am a speaker and I help other people, but there are days I feel like not getting out of bed. But that's okay. I allow myself to lay in there for a little bit longer. But
you know you got to get out. Yeah.
You got to go for a 5-minute walk. It doesn't have to be earth shattering, but get some exercise. And the biggest thing you do is when you feel like giving up, talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. Build a support network of people that are going to build you up, encourage you, inspire you, lend you an ear. There are people out there. And
you have to be around positive people.
Yeah. And you know what? If you have to change your friends, you have to change your friends.
Right.
Doesn't mean you don't have to like them. Right.
Yeah. Right.
You can change.
Justin, you're on a suicide prevention team in Salmon Arm, British Columbia. How have your life skills dealing with suicide helped the team?
Well, they really wanted me on the team. They approached me actually because I am a 6'3", 235-pound, tattooed, fit guy. I don't look like a guy that's going to be.
No, you look fit to me. I mean, I wouldn't want to take you on.
But I don't look like that guy that's going to say, "Hey, I struggle with my mental health," or "I was suicidal." And I'm that guy that can talk about the man up stigma because I lived by that. I remember telling my buddy that it was when I was 24. So we had a conversation about depression, and I looked at him and I said, "Depression's an excuse. It's for the weak. You need to man up." Now I lived by that. And because I lived by that, I was beating myself up, keeping everything down, running away from life.
Yeah.
Manning up is taking responsibility for your choices and asking for help. It takes a true man to be authentic and be vulnerable to ask for help.
Yeah, I agree. I'm an advocate for the Male Breast Cancer Coalition. I'm a male breast cancer survivor. And we go through the same thing. There's guys out there that don't want to talk about it. They're stigmatized and that kind of thing. And they got to ask for help. And so we try to reach as many as we can and get them out of that funk that they're in. And, so it's a tough hole. The CDC is saying that 1 in 3 Americans are dealing with depression or anxiety due to COVID. How has this affected the mental health conversation?
I think you know what? I hate to say it, but in a positive but negative way, it's getting more attention. I see a lot more people sharing it on social media, what depression can do and that they are suffering.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a disease had to come along for it to be pushed more and more, right? To be more broadcasted about, hey, and it's because I think a lot of introverts or extroverts, mind you, are struggling now too. When they came up, I just got out of my isolation stage, and a year later, they're like, "Okay, you got isolated, huh? Okay, don't threaten me with a good time." I was born for isolation. But, other people, they're finding out what it's like to be an introvert or to be forced to stay home. Now, I'm saying the government was forcing them to stay home, but when you have depression or you're clinically depressed like I was, you're almost forced to stay home. You are, but you're not. Because you don't want to go, because you're sad. If you go out, you can disappoint somebody. If you go out, you have to have a conversation. If you go out, you may cry in the middle of nowhere. So depression is almost like a forced isolation, although you do have a choice to get out, but it's so hard.
Yeah.
But I think with COVID going on, people are starting to pay attention to what depression can actually do to you because they are starting to go through it. I never advocated for mental health until I started to go through it. I never advocated for addiction until I started to go through it. Now, a lot of people are going to dismiss it, right? Because they're not going through it. They don't understand it. But now that people are starting to understand it, they're starting to advocate, holy cow, this is serious. So you're going to see these people that, they're all manly and stuff, and they think they're invincible. They're like, holy cow, this is actually happening to me. Oh,
Yeah.
now this is real. Because you know what? When I had a buddy, his father committed suicide when he was a kid, and it hurt him. I thought I was helping him by saying, oh, it's the coward's way out. You're better than that. I legitimately thought I was helping him by saying that. Now, like, going through it, it's like, holy cow, it really opens up your eyes. It's not the coward's way out. It's just, you think it's the only way out.
Yeah. I mean, you're the real deal. I mean, if people want good advice, you're the guy to come to because you've been through it. I mean, there's nothing more than better than the experience. Tell us what you teach about workplace wellness relating to mental health issues, and has it helped to destigmatize the subject for the employees?
Well, you know what? I think that the Canadian government I believe they're giving more sick days or personal days. I see all over the world, there are mental health days or wellness days, or I think in Japan they have this wellness bucket they give to people, or they're shortening the hours, realizing that, hey, they went down to 6 hours, but they're getting more production.
Yeah.
But what helped me at work was having the ability to go on short-term benefits. Like, because I still got paid to go off work. So I could support my family, or I wouldn't have taken it. I would not have left work. I would have stayed there and suffered. But I had that option. Also, my foreman, they would talk to me about it. I built a good rapport, not a rapport, but a rapport with
play on words.
Yeah, with my foreman, and they were actually just good to talk to. We just had, and my HR, they helped. They were there to talk to me. They got me 5 counseling sessions, realizing that if you hate your job, you don't have to stay there, or maybe you do. But if you do have to stay there, what are 3 things you're grateful about that job? Or what is it bringing you? So, you know what? I didn't like working at the mill because it was boring to me. It was the same thing day in and day out.
Sure.
So, but my son has an education fund. I got the help that I needed. I built some good friendships. So as much as I hated that job, my son had a roof over his head, had clothes on his back. He had an education fund. He has more money than me. He's 5. So look for the gratitude out of that. Oh, and if you do hate your job, what can you do on your free time to replace it? Know that you don't have to stay in that job unless you've been there like maybe 20 years and you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years left and you got a good pension. But you don't have to stay in your job that you don't like. You don't have to. And if you do, Oprah Winfrey said, do what you have to do until you get to do what you want to do. So me right now, I do coach. I do speak. I'm not a full-time coach or a full-time speaker by any means yet, but I still serve them. And I still serve 5 days a week. And it's draining for sure. And they're all nights. And I get up to walk my kid to school in the morning and stuff like that. And I go to the gym and try to work on my stuff during the day. But you know what does serving do for me? Well, it gets me to have those conversations with people. It gets me so I can pick up my son and take him to school. It gets me so I can make enough money to pay for schooling and pay for bills and pay for food. And do I want to be serving? Not really. But you know what? I get to help. I get to make people have a good time when they come in. I get to make them laugh.
Yeah.
I get to show them a good time. And do I want to do it forever? Not a chance. No. But for the time being, I will do it until I get my coaching and my speaking full time.
Well, just looking and listening to you, I am sure you are an excellent server, without a doubt.
Well, you know what? People are coming out right now, and they're just thankful to be out. So it's up to us, the servers, to make sure they have a good time. And there's always someone sarcastic to me. I'm sarcastic right back.
Justin, do you have any tips or advice for us what to do if we know someone is, say, off mentally in a serious way and could be a potential problem either doing harm to themselves or others?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I've called the cops on people if I feel like they're going to.
Yeah.
Or you ask them straight up, do you think you're going to harm? I'm sorry for asking this, but do you think you're going to harm yourself? Are you okay? Can I talk to you a little bit longer? But then you got to be careful because you are not a counselor, and it is a gray area. But I mean, I've called the cops 3 times on people, and what the cops do is it's called a wellness check, and they don't give your name of whoever called them. But you gotta, I mean, don't just pick up and call. Sometimes people just, they need that attention. They need that person to talk to. But it's tough because you never know, and you don't want to be that guy that talks to them last.
Justin, right? I've heard that if you talk to somebody in that state and you ask them, or it comes out that they have a plan, I've been told that that's a pretty bad sign.
Yeah.
I mean, when they come out and say, yeah, I got a plan.
Well, you don't know when they're going to carry that plan out.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's a bad sign, right?
But yeah, a lot of, you can say, do you plan on hurting yourself? And they can easily just say no. Right? Fully lying to your face. Like, I don't know how many times I looked at my counselor in the face, said no. Or my doctor said no. Are you suicidal? Nope. Or, hey, I'm Justin Brien. How you doing today? When I really felt like this.
Yeah.
Put on that mask of deception. Sure. I got really good at it.
What are, this is just kind of a little bit off topic, but not really, but what are your thoughts on the legalization and decriminalization of substances like marijuana, LSD, some opioids, and their removal from the list of controlled substances? Are we moving in the right direction in regard to this, in your opinion, knowing what you know now, having gone through addiction, and we know chronic use of marijuana can cause depression?
Yeah, and people don't realize that chronic, when it comes to the decriminalization part, I don't really know all the stats to it. I know it's worked in other countries.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how much you can handle or how much you can have on you. But I don't know fully all the stats on that. But I do know that people think marijuana is a lot safer than it actually is. It can lead to I've heard it and I've seen it lead to psychosis, mood changes, to where if you are relying on a substance, I mean, it's still addiction. There's no difference between getting up and having a beer in the morning and getting up and having a toke,
right,
and driving your car. Like, there's no difference. It's a mind altering substance. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against drinking. I'm not against marijuana use, if you use it in moderation and at your house and don't operate a vehicle. And because I'm lucky I never killed anybody drinking and driving. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I could live after that if I did. But it's the exact same. And if it alters your mind. Let's just say that. It doesn't build brain cells.
Right.
But when it comes to the decriminalization, I don't really know the stats on. I think it's worked in Spain, and I think maybe Norway or something like that. But it's bringing their prison population down. Is it working? I don't know. I don't know how I don't really know how it works. I haven't really paid attention to that much of it.
Can you tell us about the Stronger You project you created?
So I created this project because it's something I believe that, like all these modules I have, something I believe that will help build up your confidence and, habits and passion and purpose to becoming a better version of yourself. It's coaching, but it's things that I believe that people should implement into their life. So we work on things like finding your why, your purpose, your passion, your non-negotiable list of things that you must do, defeating self-limiting beliefs, building self-confidence, identifying triggers, building those healthy boundaries. Because that, I found a lot of people they have a very hard time with healthy boundaries because they don't like saying no to people because they don't want to hurt their feelings.
Right.
So where people work with me one-on-one for 12 weeks, we talk about whatever they want to talk about. Then they assign homework. We talk about the previous homework. They also get an accountability sheet. So where they they actually grade themselves on how they perform that week. Did they reach their goals? Did they hold themselves accountable? How do they, out of 10, how do they think they did? What are some big wins that week? But I think the biggest thing that I have in every single one of my modules is, what are 3 things that you love about yourself? So at the end of every module, they have to answer 3 things they love about themselves, because everyone's like, I could tell you like 50 million reasons why I love my kid. But when someone's like, what do you love about yourself? Well, now I'm better at it. But in the beginning, I couldn't even answer one. So it's getting people to love themselves, because you must love yourself first.
Justin, when you work with people, do you only work with people like in your home area, or can you work with people remotely?
No, it's all online.
Okay. So it doesn't matter where they are. No, that's good. Okay. Do you plan to expand your mental health advocacy in the future?
Yeah. So I finally got my first keynote 45-minute speech tomorrow in a high school. And I've spoken at a bunch of different places, but not a 45 solo keynote. Now I got my first tomorrow, and that's the beginning.
Good luck.
Thank you. I also have a mental health presentation online slide deck that I do as well next week for the same school. So for the students, I'm speaking. For the teachers, I'm doing I have a mental health presentation on kind of a little bit of my story. Like the speech is basically all my story in my life and life lessons. But the mental health presentation is a little bit of my story, how to recognize it, how to get navigate your journey, maybe how to listen to it. And then it has some resources in it where you can ask for help. But yes, I fell into the coaching. I wanted the speaking, and I feel like I can reach more people through the speaking, but I've helped change 8 different lives already with the coaching, and that feels really good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's the same thing we do at the Male Breast Cancer Coalition. We can't change the world, but we can, affect even one person. It's a great feeling, when
and you know what? It's what is it? The compound effect, the penny.
Yeah.
Double.
So what excites you going forward?
Yeah, honestly, what my capabilities are. I've had so much support and encouragement, and every time I put out a piece of content, someone says, "Oh, I really need you to see that day." When I feel like giving up, it's like, "Oh, maybe it's not getting noticed," and then you get that comment, it's like, "Oh, I really need you to see that today," or "Thank you." That excites me.
Good.
The fact that I'm finally getting into schools, and I'm just getting into my first one, and this is just the beginning. There are so many schools in this world.
Yeah.
There's so many possibilities in this so many people that I could positively change and help them make change, or see that they should make change. It's just starting.
I'm excited for you. I really am.
Thank you.
What important takeaway points and tips would you like to leave us with regarding what things people with mental health issues can do to help themselves?
First one, big one, ask for help. Second, if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you must keep on walking. Find your why. Find your why to go on. There is one out there, because there's always someone that looks up to you.
Okay. Justin, where can people contact you?
Well, I have a website, just www.justinbrien.com. You can find me on Instagram at JustinBrien19, or just Justin Brien on Facebook. And I'd love to hear from you. If anybody wants to reach out and say what they got out of it. I got an email the other day because I was on a summit. And I spoke about finding your why, and she just said, "Thank you." And even that, that's just said that, there's somebody listened and paid attention. When
your day.
People are looking at you, it's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
I once spoke at a business, and actually it was where my mom worked, and it was 40, 50 of my peers or adults, and a couple of guys I played hockey with that had no idea. Then I spoke, and a guy got up afterwards And he actually talked about his struggles for 10 minutes. And the two guys made appointments after. It was awesome. But then one time I went and spoke at a school, and then I saw that girl at the gym, and I was like, hey, like, did you go to this school? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I spoke to you guys. And then she looks at me, you spoke? Well,
Yeah.
I kind of failed my skills a little bit. But there's other kids that remember me. Like I see around town, like, oh, you're that guy, right?
Oh, I'm sure they do. Yeah.
They remember, but that one
didn't. Yeah, that one. Maybe she was sleeping or something. Who knows?
We'll just say she was sleeping.
Well, I want to tell our audience 1 in 10 people suffer from mental illness, and 1 in 5 will experience a mental health issue in their lifetime. Thank you, Justin, for sharing your story with us and enlightening us about these issues. I wish you all the best going forward, and I am sure you will continue to do great things in the future to help people with addiction and mental health issues. We would like our listeners that have any suggestions, observations, comments to make the podcast better, to contact us at our website blog. It's arapwithrap.com. You can email us at itsarapwithrap@gmail.com, or on our Facebook page, It's a Rap with Rap. I want to thank everyone for listening. I want everybody to please stay safe out there. And for now, it's a wrap.